This afternoon's been mad. Learn the breaking reports this afternoon surrounding our intent to sign Cucurella from Brighton. We have big updates on Wesley Fofana, Gvardiol, Endrick from Palmeiras, as well as the future of Levi Colwill, as potentially it seems like the player is set for an exit in this window. Ton of things to break down, report. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's go over 2.5k likes for today's video, and now getting straight into the video. I guess I want to start things off by discussing the latest updates surrounding Endrick. Now, all these reports have been coming out from the Brazilian report that I've been mentioning in the previous stories on the player, and we have some small updates that seem quite promising. Now, of course, we know that the official bid we want to make, 30 mil plus 10 mil in add-ons, is going to be officially presented, as this report states, in the next few days. Now, the big interesting update is that Endrick's parents in his camp are very interested in the proposal that we've made for the player. Not just financially, but based on the project we are selling towards him as well too, which is the most important thing. Now, we have also presented a very clear career path for the player, a career plan for him to follow as well too, which is particularly interesting to Endrick's camp. So it does seem like we can actually offer career plans and maps out to certain players, which is quite interesting. But regardless though, it's safe to say that once you're holding contacts and conversations the day after you turn 16 years old, you're not here to waste time and you're not here to play games. For certain special talents like this, for me, potential generation defining talents like this, speed and haste are the most important things. They can make the biggest difference in regards to being able to capture these players in the end. The reporter has some positive things to say about the story. I'd imagine though that we're still a long way away. I guess that his camp wants to talk to other clubs and interested parties, so just gauge the situation and find out what everyone's saying surrounding their client. So let's see what happens. But on a personal note, as a fan, I look at guys like Mbappe's, guys like Ronaldo's, and I'm hoping that this deal gets done because it's been like a personal thing for me to always want to see like one of these special super wonder kid talents playing for my club. Like seeing guys like Mbappe absolutely explode. They're the storylines I feel that form and make part of the history of big clubs like us, because we're the fortunate ones that are able to sign these guys to begin with. So I love to be able to sign a Brazilian wonder kid that really is that real deal. So that's the first story out of the way. Let's continue on and let's discuss this afternoon's breaking news surrounding Cucurella. Now, I have been alluding to the fact that I feel like we should be in the market to sign a left wing back compared to a right wing back, and I've always felt like maybe we should compete with Man City to sign Cucurella, as I feel like we could probably entice the player to sign. Positive news this weekend was the fact that his move to Man City collapsed due to the valuation difference, and instead Man City are now targeting Borna Sosa from Stuttgart for half the price, so good for them. But this now creates an amazing opportunity for us. Every big name journalist from your Ornsteins, Matt Laws and everyone in the UK is confirming the news collectively. We are looking to sign Cucurella before this window ends. Tuchel's plan for the player is to use him as a left wing back as well as a left centre back. And if you guys remember that, I think the loss or draw against them last season at home, Cucurella was playing as a left-sided centre back. And one thing to remember is that Tuchel likes his wide centre backs to break the lines, to get forward, to play in midfield and receive. And I feel like with Cucurella, with his skill and his ability to make those underlapping runs and overlaps too, could make us particularly dangerous down the right hand side and the left hand side too. And I think these are the areas that we have to improve upon to improve the attacking players around them. And I'm going to touch upon that as the story goes on. But let's break down the news. Currently, it seems like our efforts to sign Dumfries will be in vain because the valuation that we have for Dumfries is not the same valuation that Inter Milan have on the player. And I think we're right. Dumfries is not worth 45 mil, so goodbye Inter Milan. But Cucurella for me is worth more money because he is a better player. Regardless, Brighton only want 50 mil to sell. They've been very adamant about that. And this is where the report becomes quite interesting because it seems like our plan currently is to offer money up front plus Levi Colwill as part of negotiations too. Now, I guess we'd have to get some confirmation behind whether this will be on loan, but I'd imagine that it won't be the case because Brighton have a club policy where they don't sign loanee players. And I think sometimes we're fans of big clubs, we do forget that every club has their own personal goals and ambitions. So it doesn't benefit them to have Colwill on loan to then lose out on the player in the next window. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we currently value Colwill at 20 million, which I feel is personally pretty low. When I'm seeing certain guys from Liverpool going for around the same amount of money, it makes no sense. But the reports do state though that it's seen that our ability to generate good money from our youth academy could be seen as a way to help us close the gap with your Liverpools and your Man Cities. And I think just that quote alone is an entirely new video in itself. Maybe I have to do that later on, you guys, because, you know, I do feel like I do want to discuss my opinions on youth football and really just explain why I feel that there should be an importance behind integrating them in our team and why I feel we can get benefits. And I won't be able to do that in a video like this because there's too many stories to break down. So continuing on, there is major interest from the players' part to sign for us. Of course, playing Champions League football, playing for a bigger team, playing in London, these are all very exciting things. And it seems like there is a willingness for us to spend the full 50 million if we have to sign the player, which I think we're going to have to do. And then the negotiations for Colwill will be their own separate entire thing. But regardless, you know, I feel like now is the time for me to give my thoughts and opinions behind this. And first impressions, I'm completely here for this. I've been thinking for a while. I think Cucurella makes a lot more sense to sign. And for me, it simply comes down to something I've been seeing for years and years at my club. And that is the lack of properly strong competition down that left-hand side. I look at someone like Marcos Alonso, a lot of respect for him, a lot of longevity. But the reality is this, since the first season we signed him, every summer, I've been talking about stories of Marcos Alonso leaving but getting priced out. So what is that really telling you about how the club have seen as like long-term ability and longevity at this club? And for me, the recent pre-season games against Udinese just highlighted this issue even more to me. I looked at the combo play with Mount and Raheem Sterling, and I saw Marcos Alonso regularly kind of killing these moves, either with like a really poor cross inside the box, not being able to have the pace to be like a proper overlapping option outside, and of course kind of being a bit selfish at times, taking silly shots when he should be looking to assist the wingers alongside him. And since he's been our left wing back, I have not seen a proper relationship that Alonso has formed with anyone down that left hand side, and instead it feels like the team cater more towards Alonso when he plays because he has incredible shooting technique. But maybe I'm being cynical. We're not going to win any titles or leagues by Alonso scoring our goals. For me, it's about signing players that elevate your existing talent. That's how you improve the team. That's how you make us a stronger team. And if our great players have great supporting options alongside them that have the physicality and the technical play too, that makes the biggest difference. One thing I love about Cucurella is that defensive versatility, as well as that like Pep Guardiola Barcelona crosses inside the box. If you guys know what I mean, like those passing style crosses that always find the man, that's a technique that we do possess in Reece James, and we do have in other Cobham grads, but we don't have that necessarily down the left hand side. I think that for me, Chelsea is a great player, but he's a lot more rotatable compared to Reece James. So for me, this is why you need to have an incredible option alongside him. And the fact that he can also play as a left-sided centre-back adds a lot of very interesting tactical opportunities, knowing the fact that when he's pushing forward and breaking to midfield, this creates new ways for us to attack. So I'm liking the implementation, I'm liking the ideas, and I'm liking some of these players that we're signing and looking at. I think Cucurella is a smart move to make. That are only my opinions. You guys, share your thoughts and opinions below. So right now, let's discuss the latest news on both Wesley Fofana and Gvardiol. Now, we'll start with Gvardiol first. Romano reported the story, confirmed it. This Sunday, we entertained talks with RB Leipzig where we offered Timo Werner plus money in the hopes of signing Gvardiol. Now, I'm a bit surprised by this. On one hand, maybe the club are continuing their efforts to sign them because they feel like there's a possibility that a move could happen here if the right money was made available. But at the same time, I've also read many reports from Germany suggesting that Gvardiol and his camp, they want to remain at RB Leipzig for the player's development and to improve his education, and then, of course, wait for many offers to come from big clubs across Europe. And I think that's probably the way to go for them. I'd be incredibly surprised if we're able to sign Gvardiol, even though, similar to what I said about Cucurella, Gvardiol can offer you those same options in the final third. But for me, I don't see it happening. And if there was any player I want to sign from RB Leipzig, it has to be Nkunku, because Nkunku really is the real deal. So now moving on to Wesley Fofana, and we have some amazing updates from journalist Ben Jacobs, who, similar to Ornstein, has built some incredible connections this year with new owners at our club. So he has a lot of great information, and it's nice that he does a lot of work with channels and social media accounts. It's nice that he's in the know like that. But anyway, he gives us some very interesting insight behind our efforts for Fofana. It seems like currently we are 20 million apart in terms of valuation. The valuation that Leicester City want is between 75 mil to 85 million. So if we're 20 mil apart, I'm guessing our offers between 55 to 65 mil with add-ons. So it doesn't seem like we're too far away, which makes things a bit more promising. Of course, I spoke yesterday about Paris Saint-Germain showing interest in case that move for Skriniar ends up falling through, but they only want to pay up to 55 mil for Fofana. So already, you know that Leicester won't be accepting terms like that. So that gives us an advantage if we hope to continue our efforts to sign the player. But still, Ben Jacobs gives us some nice insight, saying that back in January, we made our first attempt to try and sign him. And this was before he signed that new contract extension that takes his deal to 2027. At the time in January, we discussed 45 million plus add-ons, and I find it interesting because I think that Fofana was still recovering at the time, so maybe that shows us the confidence the club have behind his abilities and his skills. Who knows? But still though, the final bit of insight from Ben is that when Fofana signed this extension in March, there was a gentleman's agreement essentially, which meant that Leicester would have to listen to fair offers for the player in the 2023 season. But now that there's a World Cup here, and now that we're showing concrete efforts to try and sign him by contacting the player as well too, I guess that's really making Fofana think about the future, and he is more than open to signing for a Champions League club that would allow him to potentially become part of that France World Cup team. So let's see what happens with this story, you guys. I think that Fofana definitely is a talented player. I think that, as I've been saying, he's someone that you have to have patience with. He is going to cost a ton of money, and I think this recent trend in football where, you know, top young talents naturally cost a lot more money, of course, they do get with some unfair criticism and maybe some unrealistic expectations immediately. Fofana is one of those guys you have to see that currently for his age, he's quite complete. But by the time he's 24, 25, 26, that's when every component will literally shine and show you what he's really about. So let's see what happens with this move. I think this could be a smart signing to make in terms of longevity in the future. So let's see what happens. And of course, we end things with Levi Colwill. I feel like, yeah, this news today suggesting that he could be on the way out of the club. I'm not really surprised by that. I think you have to be quite realistic in terms of how you see business being done. Realistically, if we're still on the market to sign more defenders in place of him, even though the manager, if he wanted to, could give him the opportunity to be like, listen, I believe in you, remain here, let's see what you do. If you don't get those assurances, then how can you commit your future? It doesn't make sense. And for me, I think the valuation at 20 mil is criminally low. But I guess I'm starting to feel like the strategy now is to loan these guys out to boost their value, to then cash in to help reinvest in signing other targets. My thing is, if this is the way you want to go down, it has to be right. It has to be correct. You can't be signing duds like your Werners and Lukakus anymore if you're selling literally all of your incredible high potential prospects for way below their current value to then sign ready-made replacements who aren't ready and aren't replacing no one. If we're doing this, if we're prioritizing the short term, I have to know it's being done right, because his sale could potentially just be a massive slap in our faces, not even in like 5 years time, maybe in like a year or two. I mean, it's a bit surprising to me. Like, for me, he's one of our best talents we produced. And it's just like, if you can get confidence from seeing James's and Mounts and Gallagher's and Tomori's and, you know, guys, you know, players that win Chelsea Player of the Year awards, you will be pretty special to do that, because you're winning those awards at one of the best academies in world football. And people make really poor arguments, in my opinion, about why aren't teams like Liverpool and co are doing that. They don't have the same quality academy. Like, come on, bro. It doesn't make... I mean, this is why I need to have an entirely separate video really discussing my grievances, my thoughts, opinions, and most importantly, my perspective. I think my perspective on youth football gets lost a lot. A lot of times I see a lot of really like casual, basic comments like Cobham sexual and all these derogatory, stupid terms, but you're not even deep in where the energy is coming from. Lots of you guys do know, that's why you watch me, but I think obviously maybe that would be an interesting thing for another video, because as you guys can probably tell, you know, I'm not particularly impressed by this. And I guess my final thing is that my fear is that we're prioritizing the short term And it's just like, realistically, I'm not saying this because I hate Tuchel. I really hate those comments, if I'm being real with you guys. I'm saying it out of realism. Is Tuchel going to be here in 5 to 10 years time? Maybe, who knows? But based on history, and that's what I'm going to use my opinion on, history, probably not. And it's just like, I don't want to be in another situation where we've given the managers the keys to everything, and their only priority is on building success for themselves by having a team that's ready for the now, not caring about 4 years or 3 years time or 5 years time, because he might be thinking to himself, I might not be here because I have my own personal career ambitions. You know what I mean? And I think that's a conversation there to be had. And it's a fear that, you know, a lot of top young talents, for me, just going for below value. You know, when I'm seeing certain fullbacks at Liverpool going for 18 million, I'm just thinking, raw, how is Livramento leaving for 3 mil? That's a bit mad to me. And I guess too, when you're looking to sign players on the same age as Colwill, like Gvardiol and Fofana, who are only like a year apart, it's not really giving you too much confidence in the player. And I don't know, as I keep saying, I need to do a separate video on this, you guys, because it's a lot deeper. There's a lot more things to think about and a lot more foresight I can talk about too. So you guys, on that note, that's the videos for today. Cucurella, I'm excited. Are you guys excited too? And on that note, I'm the EFC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.